Hey guys, Todd Anderson here alongside Tom Ross doing a deck tech for Doran Zur. This is a Benny Smith concoction from, I don't know, some of his modern brewery action on StarCityGames.com. If you really like Benny Smith, then you're going to love this deck. I haven't played with this deck yet. It looks really fun, though. Basically, it's just a Doran the Siege Tower Zur mid-range strategy. It uses Zur to fetch up a lot of really interesting enchantments. Tom, tell us a little bit about these enchantments, since you've seen this deck a little more than me already. So
Yeah, Benny got a 20th at the Premier IQ in Richmond with it, and the deck looked really sweet. All the enchantments are more of like a toolbox package full of like silver bullets. I guess I just go buy them. A Blood Moon is like holds half the format. It's great to get Courser Crewfix just to add more pressure to the board. Detention Sphere just solves a lot of problems. Unflinching Courage will beat the red decks. Eidolon will get anything's trying to draw extra cards. This deck doesn't draw any extra cards, so it's cool in that instance. Assault Formation acts as like Doran number, I guess,
five,
9.
it's basically
whatever you
5.
want. And Mardu Ascendancy is pretty cool as it pumps the toughness of your creatures, but when you have a Doran or Assault Formation in play, it actually pumps the power.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting combination. People, when Mardu Ascendancy first came out, people talked about playing it alongside Doran in Modern, since you can use these fetch lands as a an intro to like a really weird mana base. And if you take a look at this mana base, it is pretty weird. Almost all the dual lands are green base, since Verdant Catacombs and Windswept Teeth can get all of them. But we also have 2 copies of Godless Shrine, whereas the Verdant Catacombs and Windswept Teeth can also get those too. So we have Singleton, Breeding Pool, Overgrown Tomb, Temple Garden, and Stomping Ground. The Stomping Ground just for Blood Moon and Mardu Ascendancy. The Breeding Pool just for Detention Sphere and Zur. But we also have 3 copies of Hinterland Harbor and Arcane Sanctum as our additional blue sources to help us cast Zur naturally. Noble Hierarch also taps for blue, which is awesome. But Zur is the heart and soul of this deck. If we're able to stick Zur against like any opponent that doesn't have an immediate spot removal spell, since he has flying, he's going to be able to swing past them most likely and just start tutoring up any card that's going to be good against specific matchups. As Tom said, Blood Moon is really good against most of the format. It's very good against us as well. But the times where we're going to fetch it up are going to be the times where it just wins the game on the spot. But if your opponent has a problematic threat, Detention Sphere takes care of that. If they're playing Storm or some other deck that is just like super spell heavy, Eidolon or Rhetoric is great against them. It stops Snapcaster Mage hard in its tracks. But Mardu Ascendancy, I think, is going to be the big one. I would love to naturally draw Mardu Ascendancy so I can cast it before I attack and also get some goblins out of the deal. But for the most part, if you have a Doran in play, or if you've already attacked once with Zur and gotten an Assault Formation, is going to do a ton of damage just by itself. Spellskite has a really high toughness, which is great for Doran, but it also protects Doran and Zur from opposing spot removal spells. And so it is one of the prime examples of a high toughness creature that you want in this deck, because it has both high toughness against decks that don't have removal, so it attacks harder with Doran, but it also protects your guys from just about anything. Spot removal in the deck, we have 4 Decay and 4 Path to Exile to give us a little bit more of a control / mid-rangey feel. We want those cards to buy us enough time so that we get our Zur or Doran into play and can actually start attacking. But we also have 3 Quetzalli Pride Mage and 2 Scavenging Ooze as just generically good creatures to cast early on in the game, and maybe even put pressure on our opponent enough so that they have to target those with our spot removal spells as opposed to our later game threats. The mana base is pretty interesting. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to turn out. The Murmuring Boss seems awesome. It's a pretty big shout out to the old school Doran decks that played fetch lands alongside no shock lands before. There was like, what, 4-year extended, I think, was the format. There was like an old Pro Tour format where fetching for Murmuring Boss was a huge deal. You and Brad played that at the Pro Tour, right?
Yeah, it's a Pro Tour in Amsterdam. Yeah, I really like how Murmuring Boss is a force, and you can fetch it up with the Verdant Catacombs or Windswept Teeth. I guess that's why the Hinterland Harbors are there too. You can go first turn Murmuring Boss, maybe reveal a Doran, play your 1-drop, and go right into Hinterland Harbor and play something on 3. Detention Sphere, Doran.
Yeah, I mean, if you start with Noble into Murmuring Bosk, or sorry, Bosk into Noble, you get to go turn 2 Hinterland Harbor and can still cast Doran, because you can tap this for black, this for white, and then this for green. So the mana actually looks sweet. The 5 basics I thought were a little sketchy at first, but the more I look at this mana base, the more it looks awesome. The only one that stands out to me is Arcane Sanctum, because it comes into play tapped, but it might be necessary. You don't want to play too many shocklands, and I think this deck has a few different off turns where it can afford to just play tap land and not punish you too much. Anyway, guys, that's the main deck for Doran Zur by Benny Smith. Let's go and take a look at the sideboard. All right, so we're here on the sideboard with the Doran Zur deck, and I don't really know where to start. I guess with the elephant, or I guess the ram in the room, or maybe it's a sheep. Nyx Fleece Ram is going to be our premier sideboard card against most decks in Legacy, or sorry, in Modern. I mean, the card, it's a 0/5, which normally it doesn't look too threatening, right? It has no power. But in this deck, it attacks for 5 when you have either Salt Formation or Doran in play.
It's even an enchantment sheep, so you can tutor it up with Zur.
Yeah, it's got all things working for it, and it's probably the happiest I've been playing of Nyx Fleece Ram in my sideboard, standard or modern. So we have one copy of Jace Vryn's Prodigy. I'm not really sure what this is for. Maybe Benny just wanted to try out some new cards. It is basically Merfolk Looter and can start flashing back, Path to Exile, and Abrupt Decay and stuff. It's also pretty good after sideboard flashing back a Thoughtseize against any sort of combo or control deck, so maybe this comes in against control. The Rest in Peace is there for anti-graveyard hate. Virulent Plague against various token-based things. A 4th Qasali Pride Mage. Is it a 3rd Qasali Pride Mage or a 4th one? I'm sorry.
4th one, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's a 4th Qasali Pride Mage. 1 Stony Silence for Affinity, a Brain Maggot to combo with the Thoughtseizes and Jace, and this also can be tutored up off of Zur. And then a 4th Spellskite, which has a lot of utility against things like Boggles, Splinter Twin, Burn, even Infect. You can just redirect all of their spells to your Spellskite, and having access to 4 just sounds awesome. This deck is, to me, it might be a little too focused on having 0 power and a lot of toughness, because if Doran dies, you kind of have these dinky cards that don't do a whole lot. But the strength lies in their ability to affect the game even without being able to attack. And Nyx Fleece Ram and Spellskite both have a really high toughness, but they also can affect the game without attacking, since Ram can block and gain some life against the red decks, and Spellskite can just cold so many strategies in the format. All right, guys, well, that's going to be it for the Doran Zur concoction by Benny Smith. Let's go ahead and get to the games.